Hello and welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast, where we are reshaping life, leadership, and business from the inside out. And today I am welcoming to the show from London, Jo Swann. Welcome to the show, Jo. How are you?
Hello. I am really good. Thank you very much.
That's good. I've realised I've said London. You're not right
Yeah.
in London, are you? Where are you exactly?
So this is what everyone thinks when you're not from, your own country. If you're from the UK, you're from London. But no, I'm a little bit further up north. So I'm from Leeds, which is in lovely Yorkshire.
Yes, and I've been to Yorkshire and I love it. I love the UK. I love London. I love everything around and about the UK. It looks like it's quite a nice morning for you guys at the moment, is it?
Actually, it's funny. Yeah, we're living the
Yeah.
dream right now.
Awesome. And can you just show everyone your top? It just gives me such a good energy and a good vibe. Disco, how good. It's very cool. And I feel like that's what this conversation's going to be about. You
Yeah.
and I have a fair bit in common in terms of our, I shouldn't say previous worlds, but almost
Mm.
previous worlds in terms of advertising communications and PR, and doing it in a corporate way and now doing it in a mission-led, purposeful way.
Yeah. It
And I
does feel
think,
like a previous life, I think. I think that's fair to say.
yeah, absolutely. I feel the same. I was talking to someone
Yeah.
just before and I was saying it's 4 years ago this month that I left
Hmm.
that world. Anyway, this is not about me. This is all about you. I'm going to firstly do a formal intro of you. It's not that formal. It's, formal enough. I love your LinkedIn profile in terms of you are PR for mission-led founders. So you are the founder of Chocolate PR. You get national press and become the obvious export. You're an award-winning agency with 20 plus. You've had the business for over 20 plus years. You
Yeah.
change lives. You're PR for good. You're a best-selling author. You have a podcast, which is the PR Powerhouse, and it's had a little
Mhm.
bit of a break, but it's about to come back with a
Yep.
vengeance, if you like. And so, like I said, you're an award-winning agency helping mission-led founders become visible, credible, and trusted voices in their space. And I absolutely love that. You said you've had over 20 years in PR and business ownership, and you've worked across major campaigns and for clients, and your work today is focused on something deeper. It sounds like, and I'll let you share that story, you
Mm.
almost fell out of love with your business and you
Yes, very much.
almost misaligned and you had to become realigned, and it is helping founders move from being unseen to fully expressed. And you work closely with entrepreneurs, particularly women and underrepresented founders, to translate their story, their message, and expertise into meaningful media presence that drives both impact and growth. I actually cannot wait to unpack this because it feels like for me, authenticity is more important than ever in a crazy world of
Yeah.
AI at the moment. And so from what I understand also, yeah, like I said, you fell out of love with your business. And so then you reshaped it in a way that, returned you to a more grounded model in authenticity, purpose, and human connection. And it's really about clarity and the confidence and the courage to be seen.
Mm.
I'm going to hand it over to you to tell us a bit about your journey and especially the misalignment piece in terms of corporate to feeling misaligned, and then how did you get back to the alignment?
Yeah. Do you know, it's so funny when you hear someone else kind of tell your story in a nutshell and you're like, "Oh my God," and it makes sense the way you say it. Like it makes sense and it sounds like a really natural transition. It sounds like, well, yeah, that's a perfect kind of line in terms of where she was and where she's ended up. But it was never planned.
No,
And I think
never
when you
is.
look back and you're like, it follows a path that makes sense, but I could never have imagined this is where I would be when I was there. So I guess if I rewind a little bit, worked in journalism, always wanted to be a journalist since I was 14. So like worked on my local paper doing work
How funny.
experience and got stories published and just found that so exciting and being able to share people's stories. I think I was quite a nosy kid. So I quite liked being able to chat to people and then get that story and bring it to life. So I knew that's what I wanted to do since I was little. And then, yeah, well, wanted to be a journalist, but did lots of different routes in the media. So I worked in radio,
Wow.
interviewed some really cool pop stars, like
Tell me
lived
about
the
who?
dream,
Anyone you can
you
share?
know.
Anyone you
Well, let's Craig David, we would all know. So interviewed Craig David, which was pretty cool in a hotel room.
I love that.
So yeah, so out of uni, I was basically still living the dream of like being a student because my job in media felt like you were still a student. So yeah, had a great time doing that. And then moved and worked in newspapers. So worked in a really big regional newspaper up here. I was a magazine editor. So like I sort of explored all of the media world. But it's quite volatile and it's not a very stable career, if we're honest. And it's actually not a very well paid career either.
No.
So I was like, maybe I need something else. So sort of moved across into PR, where I felt like I could still play with all of that stuff, but also there was another element to it, which was quite exciting from a business perspective. Worked for agencies, ultimately ended up in an agency that had a really bad ethos, a really crappy culture, horrible bullying boss, if I'm
Really?
honest. It was just I'm a bit of a workaholic, and I imagine that you are a bit the same. So when you're all in, I just feel like we're very similar in lots of ways. When I'm all in, I'm all in, and people see that as a bit of a flaw actually, because I'm literally like tunnel visioned of like, I am not giving up on this, like I'm gonna stick with it, even if it's a detriment to myself. And that is basically what happened in that position. I was kind of fighting to be seen, but all they wanted to do was squash me down because they didn't like this. At that point, I was early 20s. They didn't like this young 20 something little blonde girl, like, with opinions and thinking that she knew how to do it. And I wasn't arrogant, I just was confident,
Yeah.
but
Energetic, I
they
think, as
didn't like.
well. Do you know what I mean? I think, like, you've got a good vibe, an energetic vibe about you, and I think sometimes you get squashed for being that as well in terms of having that presence around you, you know?
Yeah. So basically, we staged a walkout of working within this agency. There was me and three other women who were all at the top of their game in that agency. And we just staged a walkout and basically, I don't know if you like swearing or not on here, but put two fingers up.
It's raw and unfiltered, and if we offend people, that's okay too because, it's not for everybody, and that's my whole thing around the podcast as
Yeah.
well. So just be your natural or yourself.
So we told people where to go and basically just were like, no, this is enough. So we all walked out, and then actually the three of us set up independently businesses initially, and then the creative director that left helped me set up my brand. So she actually helped me establish Chocolate PR and think about actually who I wanted to be, how I wanted to represent myself, bring the fun, bring the creativity. Like, let's, be the version that I actually am rather than be the version that I was like trying to be put in this box. So that was amazing. But naturally, I sort of started working with clients that were very similar to the clients from that agency just because you do what you know, don't you? And I didn't know any
100%.
different.
Yeah.
This was a long time ago as well. So, it was very much still the corporate days where you got business from local clients and, had a physical office, and it was very traditional agency in that respect. So I worked with corporates, and like looking back now, I'm like, oh, I did really freaking well. Like I started from nothing, built a team, had an office, worked with international clients, worked with brands like Whistles and Dale Carnegie, Sushi, big brands and building societies. And I'm like, how did I actually do that? And it was, I don't know, it was consistency. It was we delivered great results. We were creative. So we were definitely recognized as doing something
Imagine
different.
you. Yeah, totally.
Um, and so I built it and built it and built it, and we won awards. We won awards for clients. And so on paper, it was all looking really great. But then actually, reflecting back, I got pregnant. And I didn't think at the time that that had anything to do with it, but I think it did in terms of how your priorities maybe shift a little bit. And I was still a workaholic, but I was sort of resenting the stress that was now being put on me from working with these big
No, yeah.
corporates.
I
And
guess
I
you had
was,
something else you're wanting to nurture as well and, like, just, like, look after. You're probably going, "This isn't feeling as good as it used to," everything.
yeah, maybe you needed some reserves of energy for something else. And so it was a bit like, oh. So yeah, so I ended up finding myself literally the moment was like I was sat in this boardroom of about 30 odd people from this brand that we were working with. I was the only one that understood or was remotely passionate about PR, yet they were paying me to give them advice and then they were ignoring it. And it was so frustrating. And I just remember sitting there literally like fighting to like make them believe in the thing that they were paying me to deliver. And I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy, and I used to go back home really annoyed, and my husband was just what are you doing? Like, why are you so cross?" And I was like, "Because they're not doing it right."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it just got to a point where I was like, "This is bonkers." So, something inside me made me realize that that was not where I wanted to be, and I'd sort of built this business to a point where now I wanted out because it was just not feeling good.
How many staff did you have at that point, Jo? Like, how many, like, where were you and what year were you into the business at that point? How many years had you been running?
We didn't ever build it to a massive agency. I think there were about 5 of us at that point. But that was about 10 plus years in. So yeah. Um, but I just knew that it had to stop. And so we kind of slowly eased our foot off the pedal with the corporate clients. We didn't take on any more. And I didn't really know what I was going to do. It was almost like I was winding the business down after I'd achieved so much. And I was like, and Tim was like, what? I don't understand. Like, you're throwing everything away. What are you doing? I was like, I don't know what the plan is, but I just know I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And then it was an absolute chance meeting. Well, maybe universe, but it looked like chance. One of my friends had got involved with an entrepreneurial networking event locally. And she was like, this woman is amazing. She set up this networking event for women who have quit corporate and who are creating their own little businesses. And it was really early on in the days of female entrepreneurship, like where it was all seen as side hustles and, these
Yeah.
crazy women quitting these successful jobs and having a go at playing at business. And I was like, there's something in this that is making me really, like, emotional. And she asked if I'd go and speak and talk to the women about how they could use PR to get themselves out there. And I remember going in this room and I was speaking to all these women and they were incredible. Like, literally, I was just like, oh my God, I love you. Like, they were super successful, super ambitious, but they had no clue what they were doing in business.
No.
And they weren't confident. They weren't backing themselves. They were just like, well, I used to be a marketing manager at HSBC, but now I just want to do this little business and I'm just in my kitchen and I'm just this and I'm just that. And I'm like, oh my God, no. No, you
It
can
happens
do something.
though. It happens though, don't you think? In terms of it happens, like it happened to me as well. In terms of when you are misaligned and you almost leave something that you've known for so long, and you feel disconnected. You lose your confidence as well. In terms of, and you're kind of like, oh, I'll just stay, here, and then all of a sudden, they need someone like you or somebody to wake you up and go, you aren't playing to who you
Remember
are. Like,
who you are, yeah.
and I use the word power, but I use it in a way that's, I should say, and I use it in a way that is very much around harness the good power. Use it. Like,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
a skill, it's a strength of yours, and you need to remind yourself of who
Yeah,
you've been around and also who you can be around, and play and
exactly,
yeah, sorry.
exactly. No, it's exactly that. It was literally being that reflection back to them of like, look at all the things that you've done, because when they start a new business, they think they're new and they think that they're on the back foot and they think that they're not worth anything and they think that they're not expert enough and they think that no one will take any notice of them. And the conversation that I was having with them was, look at where you've come from, look at everything you've achieved in your life, and now you are being one of the brave ones that are actually daring to follow your dream. You are a minority, like, you are special, and just being able to show them that that is not the norm and that they are not the average person, and they need to celebrate that because they're creating this business because they want to help someone else. Ultimately,
Yeah.
all of my clients have created a business because they want to help somebody else,
Mm.
like, do something differently in their life or have a better experience. And if they're too quiet about that, they're not going to achieve the impact that they've quit their nice paid corporate job for. So,
It's
yeah.
the it's the mission and the reconnection back to one, I call it, reconnecting with your soul. And when you're out of alignment, your soul's screaming at you going, like, "What are you doing?" And it gets louder and louder and louder to a point where you can't ignore it any longer. And so it's kind of then, like you say, having the courage and the ability to go on a bit of a pilgrimage to go, "All right, who am I? What am I? What's my mission?" Taking all that lived experience and turning it into something where you're making a difference. And I think
Mhm.
there's such an opportunity. I want to ask you a question though. You talked around, and it's a really hot topic of mine, or a hot observation at the moment I have, and you would see more of it. And maybe I'm behind in observing or noticing it. There isn't a huge amount, well, there's a lot of women entrepreneurs, but I'm seeing a real gap in terms of male entrepreneurs and founders and things like that. And then I'm seeing, like, I keep going on about this event I went to last week, and there was like 840 people there, and it was like the women were the minority. And I'm like, is there a gap? Is it that women are less? I'm assuming they're less confident. Why are women? They're coming out of corporate,
Mm.
and then they're almost like going, "Well, that was my career and there's no, I'm never gonna get back up there again." Like, do you see that with a lot of,
All the time.
and
Yeah.
why do you think that is? Like, is it purely down to confidence?
I think it I think it's a lot of things. I think how we value our identity is very different to men. So I think we value our identity a lot on recognition and a lot on achievement and sort of being seen to be useful. And I think all of that is really wrapped up into a corporate identity. And then when you've had enough, so lots of people that I work with believe corporate because they've had enough. So either they've had a terrible experience, they've been bullied, they've been pushed out of a role, they've been made redundant, they've hit menopause and they don't know what the F is going on, and they've lost themselves and they don't know how to be
It's
like in that
real.
environment. That is very real and very, oh my God, unfair. But also, the workplaces are not set up to help women.
No.
But women who have worked all of their lives to get to a certain point in their career are just being abandoned, and they're not being looked after or cared for. So we find lots of women jump, and often they might have had coaching as part of their corporate career, or they might have been involved in coaching. And so many of our clients then move into that space and they're like, okay, I feel comfortable, I feel safe here. So I might just do a bit of coaching. But then to make them realize that can actually be a business and that they can make a real
Yeah.
impact is a whole nother like jump. It's imposter syndrome. Loads of women that I deal with suffer from imposter syndrome, and it's really debilitating sometimes.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating listening to you share all of this. And I think I might have said to you, I know that you and I are going to have a separate call just in terms of, that transition and putting yourself back out there. And I'm
Mm.
doing more and more of it now. It's also the fear of, well, what will people think of me because I had this
Absolutely.
incredible career previously, and now, here I am. And I think there's also that element of perfectionism, right? In terms of, because tell us a little bit about, so how you work with these women in terms of getting them a space, if you like, from a media presence perspective, and so that they feel, that the mission is being, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? It's being shared in a way that gives them back the presence that they should be putting themselves out there anyway. I'm probably not using the right language here. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
so how do you work with them in terms of they come to you? They're kind of, are they lost? Are they like, look, they're not sure what they need? Like, how does it work?
There's people come at different stages. People that I love to work with the most are people who come because they've done that, they've made that move, they've quit corporate, they've started a business. They know that they are an expert in their thing because they've probably brought some skills across from corporate, but they have no idea how to prove that, how to show that, how to showcase that. They just don't know how to get themselves out there into the world. So some of them fear being seen. Some of them are really nervous about being vulnerable. And for the media these days, you've got to show up as you. You've got to bring the human element. They don't want to celebrate brands, they want to celebrate people. So that's a very different move as well from when you've been in corporate, and sometimes you've been told not to speak up and not to be too opinionated,
Totally.
not be you. And then I'm saying, no, I need all of you. I need all of you to come out to like, this is who we need to celebrate. It's very much goes into, it has to go in first before we can start to go
Yeah, I
back
love
out.
that.
So our first starting point is very much, let me show you how freaking amazing you are. So
Yeah, I love
my starting point is, I'm going to pull out of you all of your stories, your journey, your career, all of your accolades, all the brilliant
mm,
things that you've achieved, but also your values and who you are as a person and what you care
yeah,
about. And we make
100%.
that make sense. So the joy for me at that first part of that process is making it all make sense and joining the dots, because I will literally ask them what they were like as a child and what their like experience growing up was, what they loved, what influences they had. And then we take them right through their career to what they're doing now, to what their mission is. And then we just beautifully join it all up. And it's like, look, this is what you always should have been doing. It makes, look, if you look back here, it makes so much sense. And
Yeah.
then presenting that back to them, so many times we have tears at that point, because there's just this realization of, oh my God, I'm on the right path, and right, I need to go for it. Like it's just gorgeous.
And the release of, like, not having to keep up anymore. Like you tapped into it. I'm really big on identity as well at the moment. Well, I always have been, in terms of we're so wedded to this identity because we've been told this is the identity we need to have as a, at an exec level, as a woman in business or in corporate, and you have to be this. And I never really agreed to it, and so I was always like, here she goes again, sort of thing. I remember when I've been told that I need to dress this way, and I need to, like, if managing director needs to do this and that, and I'm always like, who says, like,
Yeah.
it's always go against the grain, and
Yeah.
within reason, sort of thing. I
Yeah.
just think identity is a huge piece, and then when you are able to realign or reconnect, and, like you say, go within to reconnect with who you are, I think that's when you get to truly shine, don't you? And it's where you go,
Absolutely. Absolutely. But sometimes you've got to see that through someone else's eyes.
I agree.
And I've had to have the same done. So I've had to have it through a coach. I've worked with a coach. He really helped me when I first entered this. So when I moved into the female entrepreneur audience, I then had to throw myself into the online space, which I'd built my business offline. I'd built my business like traditionally. And all of a sudden I was thrown in this online space where it's full of influencers and people doing selfies and, like, gorgeous people. And I was like, oh my God, I don't like this. Like, I don't want to do it. And so she really had to help me see, you are a bloody expert. You deserve to take up this space. And I had the same feelings of like, but this isn't my world. Like, this is my world out here. Put me in a networking event, actually in a room full of 100 men, and I'd be fine. Put me online in front of 30 really like confident women. And that's when I feel really strange about myself. It's
Yeah,
so weird. It's so
yeah,
weird. And
yeah.
so I had to do all of that work as well. And I think that's helped. I think that's helped that I've been through that process of struggling with imposter syndrome and being visible for this version of my business. That I get it. I get it when they come to me and say, I don't feel comfortable like being seen. And I'm like, no, I know it's not comfortable.
A miss. Like, I'm inconsistent. Although I'm reading things at the moment, and again, I'd loved your opinion, your advice on this, or thoughts on this as well. Like, two things. So go online, and there's just absolute shit everywhere in terms of AI's written it all, and I'm just like, that puts me off in a way sometimes, because I think to myself, well, I can never be that.
Yeah.
So then when I go and just be my real authentic self, which I always am, and then I'm like, "Oh," and then I'm gonna just really stand out, like, I'm not fitting in, sort of thing, and I'm interested to know if you have that conversation, from other women you work with, in terms of this. There's almost like this new thing that's come in. It's like, it's more important to be more authentic and have a voice, and than ever. And yet
Mm,
there's this voice that's just coming through, and everyone's just almost online, and there's just like, I'm this and and then it's like, oh, like, where do you fit in? Where do you sit? Do you know what I mean? Like,
it messes with your head. There's another layer of challenge, isn't there? Because it's another layer of perfectionism to fight against.
yeah,
We probably think that, oh, well, the people that are showing up with the AI stuff are coming across as perfect. But actually, we know deep down that that's not going to connect and it's not going to last long. It's genuinely not, because it's all the same and no one connects with stuff that does not feel real. So, and we're getting it from journalists. They're saying to us, if we're trying to pitch a story, or if we're putting some content together, it literally comes back specifically and says, please confirm this has not been generated by AI. They do not accept it if it has been written in that way, because what needs to happen to cut through is people's genuine feelings and emotions and energy coming out through the content. So you're going to win if you are fighting against. I know it feels harder, but you are going to win if you are genuinely just being yourself.
Yeah. And so for you, right, when you went from offline to online, from a consistency perspective, what do you tell, like, so women who you work with, you're getting their voice back out there. Like, there's inconsistency and there's consistency, right? And it's another, like, as a small business owner or as a business owner, you're juggling everything. You're managing everything. You're doing everything, right? And I mean, obviously there is opportunity now with AI from a productivity efficiency perspective. It's like you've got your personal brand, you've got your business brand, you've got all the brands going on and you're managing them all. It's just what advice do you give people when they're, to how they manage their time and, effort versus reward and, like,
Yeah.
constantly, needing to be seen, etc. Because I'm sure that comes up a lot as well.
Yeah, of course. And it's about playing the game, and it's about knowing how to create a profile without having to be on all the time. So this is the power of PR, that actually once you get yourself out there, the internet is doing the work for you. So what we really advise our clients is do a really big push at the beginning. So do a burst of activity so that we get you like seeded out across the internet in as many places as possible. So creating as big a digital footprint as possible, which means that you can be found for all of the things that you're passionate about. All of your expertise is out there on the internet and it can be found at any time. And then you just layer that. People don't do, I mean, some of our clients do PR constantly. Most of them don't. Most of them do it in bursts of activity. So, because then in between, it's still working for you. It's still existing. It's still out there. People can still find that podcast that you were on, or the article that you wrote, or so you don't have to be doing it all the time, but
It's
you
good to know.
need to be doing enough to kind of create the impression that you are doing it all the time.
Love it. I love it. Chocolate PR. How did the name come about in terms of and how much is chocolate PR, like, from a meaning, like, obviously it's changed a lot from a meaning perspective. Yeah, like, tell us a little bit about that.
I think it's interesting actually, because chocolate PR was always born from a bit of a rebellion, I guess. So it was born from leaving that agency and kind of sticking the two fingers up and going, I'm going to do it my way, and not calling it something corporate and stuffy, and trying to connect with the clients and the types of people, trying to call them in, I suppose, from the beginning of the types of people that I wanted, because it was creative. Let me just show you this actually, one second.
These stories, I do think they're part of who you are and your, like, do you know what I mean? And your evolution.
I found this the other day. This is my very first logo. Can you see this little character here?
Cute. How good.
So that's so old. But yeah, so that was the logo that we went out with, and that name. And it was just really different. It was really different in the market in terms of,
Mm.
like, 20 years ago. You wouldn't have got that kind of branding. And so I think it was a rebellion. I think it was a, like, I'm going to try and put my mark in the sand and almost repel the people that I don't want to be interested in me. I don't want to work with solicitors and
Yeah.
accountants. I just don't. So
No.
they're not going to want to come and work with me because they'll think I'm a silly little blonde girl. So it was almost like consciously trying to, you
Yeah.
know, make a mark.
Absolutely.
And then I think over time, I probably wasn't as true to that brand in the early days as I could have been, because we did work with some quite big, boring companies. But over time now, it actually really fits. So now it really does fit with the creativity and the playfulness and
Yeah.
the female focus.
And what comes up for me is connection, and how important connection is when you are an entrepreneur, founder. Like, don't you? Bless you. Don't you agree? Like, and chocolate, I think of chocolate, and I think of eating chocolate with somebody or people, like, of course, as well on your own. It's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
It's
Like,
got
so how, like,
a vibe, hasn't it, to it, like a comfort thing and like, lots of things, celebratory,
yeah. Yeah. How important do you think, I mean, it's probably comes across as a bit of a silly question, but connection, you talked around the offline and to the online.
mm,
I'm hearing and seeing more and more there's this need to, or want and desire to have more experiences now, and back to events and things like that, whereas everything was online. What are you seeing in terms of, again, with the clients that you're working with?
absolutely the same. Like, there's almost like a rebellion against the online space at the moment because it's, I don't know about in your world, but it's become a bit toxic in my circles slightly in terms of the coaching space. And I think people are scared and they're really in a strange place at the moment where they're very defensive and almost like going against, like fighting against each other. There's a lot of that in the online space and I don't like it. So I think that's become like a little ecosystem of its own right, and actually people are trying to branch out now and go, "Do you know what? I wanna get back into the real world. I wanna get real life." And so I'm seeing loads more people going offline and thinking about how they can do business offline, which is really interesting for me because actually I've been able to bring a lot of my corporate experience back now into this entrepreneurial space of clients who are like, "I wanna do business like a real business, like, not just like an online influencer. I actually wanna do real business." And I'm like, well, yeah, like actually, let's think about what these big businesses used to do. You could absolutely embrace some of that. Like, there's no
Yeah.
reason why you only have to be showing up on Facebook. Like, there's deeper ways to build a business.
It's interesting, isn't it, how we go. I did a bit like you, big, to the industry I came out of, and just like the pendulum swung so far away. People were confused. They were like, "What are you doing? Like, we know you for this." And I just
Yeah.
felt so over it, and just the need to just run away from it. And just, I was so jaded by it in the end, and exhausted, and all the feels, right. And so, and it's funny, here I am, and I'm seeing, it's just listening to you as well. There's all this stuff that you have always done, and you said no to it for a while because almost you needed to realign with yourself. And now you're like, "Oh, I can use this. I can use
Yeah.
these skills in my new world," right? And I think a lot of women, that's the thing. Just because you've finished in one career, or having a career transition or change,
Mm.
doesn't mean you have to walk away from everything that you've known.
Yeah.
It's how you then tell the story in a different way, which is what you're talking about here, and how you tie it back to what your mission and what your focus is now, I think, is
Exactly.
that we need more of Joes from Chocolate PR in the world to help us do this, because it's I mean, I wish I had someone like you when I was going through it, because it's just like, yeah, here I
You
was.
just need just
Yeah.
someone to hold your hand and,
Yeah.
like, you need someone to put their arm around your shoulder and go,
Yeah.
"No, like, this is not we're not accepting this for you." Like, "No."
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. And so a couple of final questions for you then. What are you seeing as the biggest opportunities for female entrepreneurs right now, and underrepresented women? Like, in terms of, just, it's such a different world this year versus last year energetically. It just feels like everything's up for grabs right now. What are you seeing as the biggest opportunities right now?
I mean, I don't think it's any different. I think it is still, you can break through by genuinely being yourself. Like, I really genuinely believe that you can break through. The more authentic that you are, the more you are going to be connected with, and the braver and the bolder you are. So, this is something that journalists are saying to us. They're like, there's such a mass of people now available to be an expert that wants to be, everyone's got on the bandwagon of realizing they need to be seen because it's freaking noisy out there. But actually, you're not going to get seen unless you're prepared to cut through. So if you're just saying the same shit that someone next to you is saying, they are not going to take you on as
No,
an expert. They need to understand why they should support you. And the only reason they will is if they realize you have got a mission and you are about something bigger than your business. So the
yeah.
opportunity is to really fight for what it is you actually set this business up for in the first place, and make sure that you are representing that and you're making an impact. You're not just talking for the sake of
No,
talking.
totally. Yeah. And you can evolve in your business. That's the other thing, right? Look at you. I mean, I'm 2 years into this business and I'm evolving constantly, and so that's the formless for me. You don't have to have it all sorted and all perfect. I think the more you can talk around the messiness of it all, and, there's the good days, there's the shit days, there's, like, all
We
the
all have
in-betweens,
no.
like, you know what I mean? Okay, so my final question for you
Yeah.
is, you said I'm a bit of a workaholic and, I've got that addiction as well. I call it a work addiction, and I'm constantly having to put myself into rehab, my bees rehab, in terms of reminding myself to step away. And it's even more tricky when you have your own business.
Mm,
I mean, you've obviously got the 2 kids and a husband.
yeah.
What do you one, how do you know when it's time to step away? And then how do you realign yourself when you can feel that you're getting misaligned from just work, 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 work?
God, I'm not sure I've nailed this, so I'm not sure how to, like,
A question, I always throw a really big question in at the end. And this is not asking you to be perfect in any way. I just think there's
yeah.
so many women out there as well that, like, it's a constant, and men, it's a constant battle. And yeah,
I suppose for me, like, the kids see me work hard, and sometimes I worry about that, and I think, "Oh, they're gonna think that she was always stuck in a laptop or, she was permanently attached to it." But then we also have a lot of holidays, and we have a lot of time together, so I try and make it really clear that, look, I'm doing this work so that I can take this time off to be with you, and try and, like, compartmentalize it. And I know it probably shouldn't be like that. In theory you should be able to blend it all together, but when I work, and I'm like, right, this is what I'm doing. I still pick the kids up from school, so it's not like I miss all of that.
no,
I
yeah,
juggle my days around making sure that I'm there for them. But when I'm working, I am working, and they kind of get that. So I think they understand that that's how it is, but I do make sure that I draw a line when it comes to when they're off. So it's just been Easter, and we've done loads of stuff together, and that's
I
meant
love
that I've
that.
worked on evenings, but I needed them to see that I was there for them during that
Yeah,
time.
yeah. It's
I don't
good.
know,
I
it's
love that. I
messy,
love
it's
that.
messy.
Yeah, it's a constant juggle, right? Life is just a constant juggle. Joe, how do we find out more about chocolate PR? How do we find out more about you? I loved when you booked in and you gave me your Instagram account, and I was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I like this woman. She's just, like, not giving me LinkedIn," because, like, it's almost like she's, like, being a rebellion, the
There's more
anti-LinkedIn, and
on
I think it's
Instagram. There's more
brilliant.
fun to be found on Instagram. I don't know. LinkedIn, I've
No,
not really.
it was good. I was like, "Yes to this," like, yes to different, like, not just "This is where you're meant to be," sort of thing?
Yeah, so Instagram, I'm at Joe Chock PR. So you will see lots of, like, I go to lots of events, I do lots of speaking. I share lots of client successes on there. I have my book, which obviously you can grab. So this is called Celebrating You with PR. And this is the whole vibe that I've been talking to you about, in terms of you can't do PR until you're really prepared to celebrate the hell out of yourself. And this helps you do that. This is the little voice in your head that's going to help you feel more ready to do it. And then, yeah, the podcast PR Powerhouse, like, I've not done any episodes for a little while, but there's still a hell of a lot of content there that helps you understand how to
Amazing,
start with PR. It gets you off the ground.
amazing. And you have a booking link for a coffee catch up, and you have quite a
Yes.
few questions. So
Yeah.
I'm booking myself in, to all the
I
listeners
know.
out
I
there.
can't wait to talk to you
I'm
about
ready
that.
to celebrate, like, it's just only taking me however long to do this. So yeah, Joe, thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you for having me.
Yeah, I love this conversation, and we need to have more of these conversations. And I think for anyone listening, in terms of from a women in particular, founder entrepreneur, it is time to shine our brightest and to really, like, allow ourselves to be illuminated. And I just think that we need to see more and hear more of all these amazing, female entrepreneurs out there that are doing amazing things, and, that are really purposeful and impactful as well. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Jo's your person, Jo and her team from Chocolate PR. So thanks, Jo, and have a nice day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.